Okay? And you're going to talk to us today about transforming market research with big data and little data. Welcome, Larry.
Is my mic on? Okay. Can you see me? Because I'm short, or should I go up on the stage? Okay. Thanks for that introduction. Yes, I've been in market research now for 35 years, which is a long time. And actually, I am going to be retiring in about 10 days' time. Oh, sure. Thank you. Thank you. Actually, I was hoping nobody would cheer, when I said that I was retiring. So I've been spending a fair amount of time lately sort of, reflecting on the past, things I've done, people I've met, all those kinds of things. Usually accompanied by a couple of glasses of single malt scotch. I find to be helpful when I do that. And one of the things I was thinking about, a couple of the things actually I want to share with you today because they're relevant to the topic at hand. And one of those things is actually the best advice I was ever given in business. It was actually given to me at the very start of my career. And this was somebody who said, look, there are two kinds of jobs in this world. There are either line jobs or there are staff jobs. And you want to be line. Because line jobs are about people who make money for the company. Staff jobs are people who just spend money, really, at the end of the day for the company. So you want to be line. And as I was thinking about it, when I've remembered that advice, is when I've really prospered and I've done well. And when I've not followed that advice is when the times when things have gone a little bit squirrely for me. But by and large, I think that's very sound advice for everybody. So if you remember nothing else about what I said, in this talk, then think about that. And the other thing I was thinking about in relation to what I just discussed is what I call the whale of the market researcher. Throughout the 35 years that I've been in market research, I would hear people say this on a pretty regular basis. Why can't I get a seat at the table? Or maybe not necessarily talking about themselves, but why can't market research get a seat at the table? And, if you put the two together, the answer really is because why should we? That's really the question we should be asking ourselves. Why does consumer insights deserve a seat at the table? Because at the end of the day, insights is really a staff function. It may be helpful, it may be useful, it may be really critical in some companies, but at the end of the day, it's a staff function. Because those insights are then taken by somebody else on the line and turned into action. And it's people who take action, are responsible for action, that get that seat at the table. So why should we get a seat at the table if that is the end of our ambition, is to deliver really good insights? And we've heard a lot of great talks over the last couple of days about people, new techniques for developing insights and all that. And as I was listening, I just kept thinking that as wonderful as that is, it's really important for the industry, obviously, to continue developing new methods, taking advantage of all the data that's there now, all the kinds of things that are now available. But if at the end of the day, if we're still just focusing on insights, we will never get a seat at the table. And market research, consumer insights, will be viewed as just a cost center. But we have an opportunity now, with all these new kinds of data that are around in the digital and in the social world, to do something transformative. We can take that data, and there are now ways we can fully bake action into those new tools and those new techniques in a way that will make insights an obsolete term and give market research a seat at the table. But we have to change the mindset we have about insights and focus in on baking action in to what it is we do. Not something that gets added on extra at the end, by either the smarter market researchers in the room or being handed off to consultants. It's got to be fully baked in. And I want to talk to you about some efforts that I and my colleagues have been making over the last few years to do just that, to take advantage of new kinds of data that are out there in the digital and the social world and transform certain core practices in market research. One of them is about making segmentation actionable. The other is about transforming tracking research and taking it from a rear view mirror look at the past into a view of the future. Let's talk about segmentation first. Segmentation is something I am sure that 90% of the people in this room have been doing for years. It's a core part of what market research is. And we've all seen very insightful segmentation output like this. Great information about who are the different groups, how relevant are they, for our brands. What are their behaviors like? How close are they to our brands? How interested are they? What are the possibilities out there for them? And then, who are they sort of under the skin? What are their needs and their attitudes? And, it can be really important. A lot of brands have learned many important things about, the potential customers and current customers through methods like this. And a lot of times we'll get handed off to the agency, we'll pick a few segments that are really important, and they may develop campaigns with messages that should really be attractive to a couple of those groups. But it always winds up falling down, or historically it almost always winds up falling down. Because the challenge has been traditionally, how do you actually find these people? Especially in the sort of world of traditional media that we lived in for so long, where you can come up with a segment based on various needs or attitudes, but then media is bought on age and gender, and there always winds up being this disconnect. And we've gotten better certainly over the last 10 years or so with being able to more precisely target through different kinds of media than just age and gender, but still, it's still a real challenge for the industry to translate those segments into something that we can actually find them and not waste a lot of money delivering a message to 80% of the population that is not interested in our brand at all. But we can actually do something very different now by taking advantage of digital data. Through small data, segmentation used to be considered a big thing, but at the end of the day, it's really kind of small data. We can take a segment with a couple of hundred people, identified in a survey, and we can combine that data with the same data for the same people across what it is they do online, what are the kinds of products that they buy. There are ways now of combining data from various panels to give a total 360-degree view of particular individuals. So we learn everything we can about those people in that segment we've identified in a survey. Lookalike models can then be built. So you can take those 300 people and now scale them up to millions. And those millions are what is sent to internet publishers. So when a digital ad is sent out, instead of just being sent out to 15 or 20 million people, almost at random, we can send out to very specific people who we've targeted, or identified rather, as being a member of the segment that we're really trying to reach. So only certain individuals will get those digital ads. That gives you a lot more efficiency. You're not wasting a lot of money. Instead of sending out to 20 million digital ads to people who are not interested in your brand, you can now find the exact people who are. And when we've done this with many of our clients now, there are tremendous benefits to doing that. Here are several examples, and we can actually name a few names. Holiday Inn, a campaign that's actually up for an award at Cannes in I think another week or two. Basically, what they were able to find by using this method compared to control efforts with the same campaign, a 38% lift in brand consideration. And this is not a typo, a 514% lift in bookings. That is tremendous ROI. A CPG company, okay, you can't name, we found a 15% lift in purchase in the travel category for Travel Nevada, who again gave us permission to use their name. We're able to generate 26% lift in online conversion rates. So by being able to target ads to particular individuals who we know are prime targets for a given brand, we can get greater efficiency out of our spend and reach the people who we want to reach and have real demonstrable effects. This turns segmentation into action. It's not just about finding interesting things about particular groups of people. We can now get to them directly. So you're translating those insights and taking them into action. So that's how we can turn segmentation into something actionable. Let's talk about tracking research. Tracking research, I've heard several presentations about tracking in this conference. There are a lot of really good ideas. And it's a prime area, excuse me. Okay, they didn't put vodka in the bottle, okay? For those of you who've been wondering. Brand tracking is a real core practice within market research and has been forever. And I think part of the reason why we've seen several presentations about it at this conference where people are reaching for the new is that it's a practice in trouble. The basic 50-year model behind brand tracking, I think it's safe to say, is broken. And sort of like in a 12-step program where you first need to stand up and say, yes, I am an addict, I am an alcoholic, I think we as an industry need to stand up and say, yes, the model is broken. Tracking surveys have gotten too big. You know, back in the ancient days when I started in this business, tracking surveys would be 15 minutes, maybe 20 at top. You could only go beyond 20 if you got an exemption from God. You know, so they were short, they were much more focused than we are now. They have grown to, in many cases I've seen, 35, 40, 45-minute surveys. The data's not very good, it's too slow. It takes weeks, if not a month and a half to get the data. And it just winds up not really being actionable. Because you're telling marketing, you're telling the business leaders what happened last quarter. They need to know what to do next quarter, not what happened last quarter. It's interesting, it can be informative, there are things you can learn, but at the end of the day, it doesn't help, and that's why so many tracking studies wind up in the equivalent of the digital shelf somewhere and not really looked at. Now, we've seen some cases, people are trying actively to do something about this. Maybe going, advocating shorter surveys, breaking things up into modules. It's been our feeling that that's not really enough. That we need to take a much more radical approach to the problem if we're not just trying to put a Band-Aid on it, but if we're really trying to make tracking into something new and different and really valuable by baking action into it. So we've been exploring how we can use social media data, how we can use online behavioral data, search data, in order to do things like build models of survey metrics. Because if we can use that kind of information to build the equivalent of some of the metrics we've been relying on in survey research, well then we don't need such long surveys. We're still getting the same information, as it were, but we don't need to collect it through surveys. So we can either get rid of the surveys altogether if we really want to. I wouldn't advocate that. But we can certainly use that as the basis for shortening surveys down to something that's much more manageable, and then you could go mobile. So we've had great success with these models. And let me show you some examples. We've been able to build highly accurate models of survey KPIs. Various metrics, could be our clients' metrics, could be some of our own proprietary metrics. We've had success with a variety of them, different kinds of categories in the US, in the UK, in Malaysia, and we're experimenting now in some other countries as well. Now, when you look at this, what I always say is that these things look too good to be believed. It looks like I must have faked it. But let me assure you that I didn't fake it because I know enough that if I did fake it, I would have put more error, into it. This is really great because this gives you now the hope that you can, as I was saying, replace some survey metrics through the use of model data from social media data. But at the end of the day, this still isn't good enough. It's nice. We can get those metrics really quick. You can build an algorithm into your social media platform, and you can get constant updates. So instead of finding out your metrics 6 weeks after field ends, you can find it out every day if you really are crazy enough to want to do that. But that's still not good enough. That's not transformative. Here's a quote that I think is really important. For businesses to be successful nowadays, it's not good enough to look at what is just happening now, or certainly it's not good enough to understand what happened yesterday or the week before. For businesses to prosper, they need to, as Wayne Gretzky said, as quoted by Steve Jobs, so this is a twofer, businesses need to skate to where the puck is going, not where it is now or where it's been. That was the genius in what set Wayne Gretzky apart as a hockey player. And that's the kind of capability that we need to provide if we're going to really transform what tracking can really be about. Helping our clients skate to where the puck is going. And what we have found is that we can be predictive with that data. Let's say, today is June 16th. Do I have it right? Good, okay, I lose track of where I am at this point. And as I like to say, this morning, hundreds of brand managers around the world woke up and the first thought in their, they had after shaking the sleep out of their eyes was, gee, what is my brand's equity today? And the reality of survey-based brand tracking is that you wouldn't be able to find that out until somewhere around the middle or the end of July. Too late to do anything. What we've been able to do is build the models so that we can actually anticipate what equity is going to be a month at least into the future. So I could tell you, that your brand's equity for June 16th, somewhere around the middle of May. That gives you 4 weeks to plan action. Because if we're predicting that equity is going to go down, success is not watching it actually go down. Success is taking action to prevent that decline from happening. So you now have 4 weeks in order to help figure that out and take action. And what we've actually been finding, and this is some of the latest results, we partnered with one of our clients. We can actually build these models now with 12 weeks anticipation, with really high degrees of accuracy. So now the presentation is going to be what's going to happen next quarter, not what happened last quarter. Think of the power that provides. You're not just giving insights then, because what you're now going to be able to do is go in and say, here's where you're headed, here's the reason why it's happening, here are the actions we need to take in order to prevent that bad thing from happening. Tracking now becomes a planning tool. You've baked action directly in it. It's not just interesting things that happened 3 months ago. Here is what we as a business need to do in order to take advantage of good trends, prevent bad things from happening, step on our clients' necks when it looks like they're going down, all those kinds of things. So now, it turns tracking into something very different than what it was. It's not a 45-minute survey. You've got a continuous social spine in order to really understand and keep a pace, keep your finger on the pulse of the market. You can still do a slimmer survey, which now, because it only needs to be a few minutes, now it's easy to do it via mobile. So you're not struggling to figure out how to get your survey into mobile. It's now easy to do. And then you can bolt in different modules at different points in time to maybe get a better understanding of some particular trends, or to understand what's going on with some new campaigns, understand what's going on in situations. So you're building an information system, an integrated and anticipatory planning tool for business leaders to use. This is not your father's tracking anymore. This is something very different. And it's this sort of thing, by baking action in, is how we as an industry can go beyond insights and get a seat at the table, because we have something to say about action. So I think, just in closing, I don't know if Lenny or if his minions are in the room, but I think you need to change the name of the conference. Because what is needed is not just innovation in insights, it's innovation in translation into action. And they can think of a better name. Thank you very much.